Now, this scene of Jesus and this woman of Samaria, unfortunately, she was not named. But it is the longest recorded conversation in the Gospels, as I said earlier. And it's interesting how, Nicodemus, who, by the way, was a Pharisee, as I said last week, and a religious insider, okay? He came to Jesus at night. So he's supposed to be on the inside, but he didn't feel safe, so he had to go to Jesus at night. The Samaritan woman, she was a religious and political outsider. You see, Jews and Samaritans had not been getting along for centuries. There was a rift. Speaking of splits in one's religious faith system, it happened a long time ago with the Jews, and there was another people that developed out of that rift called the Samaritans. They didn't like each other. In fact, they actually hated each other. And so here she is, a religious and political outsider, and she has to come during the hottest part of the day, partly because of her background story, which, by the way, we only get a little glimpse into. 5 husbands, although that's an analogy for some other things that most likely are happening. But she has to come when most people do not go to a well at the heat of the day. It's just too hot. You do your water dipping in the morning, in the cool of the morning, or in the cool of the evening. Remember, Israel is a desert. But both, by the way, Nicodemus and the Samaritan woman, are avoiding other people for the sake of their shame and their rejection. In other words, they are feeling parched in their being. Here's the cool thing about this story, too. She, this unnamed woman, is the first one that Jesus reveals his identity to as being the Messiah. She is, and furthermore, at the end of their encounter, she is the first to proclaim him as the Messiah to others. She's one of the first evangelists. And Jesus is the one who goes to her and says, "Can I have a drink? I'm thirsty. I'm human. I meet you where you are. I meet you where you are. Human to human. Jesus is thirsty." So are you needing a drink today, friends? Are you feeling a little parched? Are there parched places in your soul? What are you thirsting for? And if you are thirsty, are you ready to put Jesus in the hot spot, like that Samaritan woman did? I love this interpretation because that we saw from The Chosen, because she's spunky, she's feisty. But you know what? When you are stripped bare of your humanity over and over and over again, which is what we can assume this Samaritan woman was stripped of her humanity over and over and over again, there's really not a lot of room for conversational decorum, is there? Any marginalized group we see right now, there isn't a lot of room for conversational decorum. There's more fiery truth being spoken. Because they're thirsty for a sense of being a part of community. So as Dr. Caroline Lewis says from Luther Seminary, she's a professor there, the Samaritan woman demonstrates what can happen when we actually engage in conversation and questions about our faith. The woman at the well shows us that faith is about a dialogue with God and about growth and change. Because just like Nicodemus, where she started in her dialogue with Jesus is not where Jesus left her. He met her where she was, in the rawness of her marginalization, so much so that she had to go in the heat of the desert noonday time to get water. But he didn't leave her there. He restored her humanity. He brought water to her parched soul. And so it's not about having all the answers. It's, are you willing to show show up? Are you willing to acknowledge that you're thirsty? Are you thirsty, friends? Jesus offers a soaking rainstorm to the cracked, parched, and dried up ground of not only the Samaritan woman's self-worth, but to our own. He gave her that drink of living water. In other words, he invited her to a new way of life. Once again, he speaks and utters these words of, I give you eternal life through this eternal water. But eternal has nothing to do with this dichotomous heaven and hell judgment duality. It has everything to do with the God of belovedness who shows up thoroughly in our midst in the here and now and tries to form our own belovedness in God's self. That is eternal life. And she opened herself up to being changed, to no longer being seen as the sinful, cast aside, filled with shame woman at the well, and instead she became the vessel of living water that Jesus sent into town to help them have a drink. Friends, what are you thirsting for in your parched places of your soul? Do you need a drink of living water? Richard Rohr says it this way: what Jesus does in this story and in the story with Nicodemus is he offers spirit. Something completely true and transformative in the here and now. This is not about what you do behaviorally that gets you in and out of heaven. No. It's how are you becoming alive in the here and now with God's love? And how are you sharing that love to a parched and thirsty world that is crying out because they're so scorched? We see this. We know this. Friends, are you thirsty? Do you need a drink of living water? Because when we drink from Jesus, when we drink from love in the here and now, when we come and make contact with the spirit spring of water, as Richard Rohr says, then we will always, always, always define ourselves by non-essentials or cultural norms or external forms and formulas. No, we will define ourselves by something much more extravagant. Something that grows a bloom of wildflowers in the desert. Yes, Jesus offers us a much more refreshing and restoring cup to drink. So our question for today and for this week is, what are you thirsting for in the parched places of your soul? Where do you need a drink of living water? Amen. Let us be in a spirit of prayer. Magnificent God, sometimes we just feel like we are living in deserts, that this world is a desert, our lives are a desert, our souls are a desert, and we are thirsty. We are looking for a well to drink from. We want to quench this burning thirst. And so we come to you. We return again to your belovedness so that you can help us reclaim our own. God, as a congregation, we carry the weight of the world with us. but we also carry the joy of the ways in which you show up every day, every moment, if only we are to see it and notice it. And so as a congregation now, we lift up the ways in which we've seen these joys and the ways in which we feel heavy. We share our prayers aloud, in person, vocally, and in our hearts. Your eternal well is big enough to hold all that we have shared in our hearts this morning. And so we say now this prayer that is big enough to hold us through our lives, throughout our time here on earth, as it binds us with our brothers and sisters who are followers of you through time and history. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. We share our gifts of all of who we are financially, spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally. We share all that we have with God this morning. Our doxology is set to different words as well throughout Lent, and will be sung to the other doxology that is in your hymnal on page 95 musically. All things come from thee, O Lord, and from thine own have we given thee. Amen. Remain standing as we sing verse 1 and 3. We'll cut out a verse here, but verse 1 and 3 of Lent of Four Winds. may we all go forth from this place, drinking deeply of the eternal living water that Jesus offers us in our parched souls. May that inspire you to share that living water and be the living water for others in our world. Amen.